Hi guys. So I just had to get in on this. Recently, Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot gave an interview with Gaming Bolt after their stock has tumbled and the incredibly bad reception of Ghost Recon. And what he says about the monetization in this, I want you to hear this straight from the horse's mouth. Quote, "In the case of Ghost Recon, our philosophy is for the player to play the full game 100% without having to spend money. We have no pay-to-win elements in our games, and what we can say there is that this is the philosophy we have for all of our games. But it has to be linked to more events, more content for players to play longer. Our live service games, our live games like Ghost Recon Wildlands, we already had a store and people were buying items from the store. What we did was give them more options at the beginning. We understand it has been seen as too big a store and that it was really not appreciated at all. But it came from the fact that players were spending time in the store and buying things in Wildlands. And our teams thought they could give them the opportunity to have more choice, which has not been well interpreted, but that was the goal." And see, this is ridiculous. You know, we're not even a week past the launch of Fallout First, and we have this shit. And I'm just going to say this right now. The only reason Yves Guillemot is giving this interview is because the stock has tumbled and they've had to push back games. And this emboldened part right here where it says, on live games like Ghost Recon Wildlands, we already had a store and people were buying items in the store. What we did was give them more options at the beginning of Breakpoint. Basically, that sounds good, but see, I understand this dog and pony show. What he's basically saying is that people spent a lot of time when they introduced the store in an update with microtransactions and Ghost Recon Wildlands. And since people were spending so much time in the store, they decided to get greedy and over monetize the game with that store. That's what he's basically saying. You know, we don't have pay to win elements. You know, you can play our game, the full game, 100%. Yeah, you can. But let me tell you this. This is why you see all these leveling systems in Ubisoft games and why you have a giant open world with nothing in it. Basically, what's happening is they're creating an artificial grind in the game in an attempt to manipulate you to spending more on microtransactions to get a XP boost and get more weapon upgrades and stuff like that. Which, that's just a dick move in and of itself. But this is what they're doing. And I've just never, first of all, I've never been a fan of leveling systems in games. Some I can tolerate, but I've just never been a fan of level-based gaming. And it's shit like this. Especially in the modern times where you've made an artificial grind to make the game longer, as well as make the game boring, and get the user to buy microtransactions because, you know, his XP isn't going up, so he may get a 3x XP bonus for the next hour and stuff like that. Which is, that's just a dick move, and that just shows the regression of gaming as a whole. And my issue with Wildlands and Breakpoint, Wildlands was mundane and repetitive to no end. The gunplay, gameplay were completely uninspired. And what hyped me up for the game originally was it reminded me of Metal Gear, but of course it couldn't have it had nothing close to that type of gameplay. And Breakpoint, they made it worse. They added this goofy ass, when you get shot, you're hobbling and you have to like damn near walk it off. You got to get different syringes and you got to bandage yourself. It would look. I'm not a fan of survival simulators. I've never been a fan of that, and I'm not saying it's a total survival simulator like Ark or Rust or something like that. No, what I'm saying is you have these like they put these random survival elements in a game. It's just sometimes you're better off. In certain respects, games can be a little bit too realistic, and that was the way it was implemented in the game. And Breakpoint I didn't like, and I just thought the open worlds in both games were trash. They were big. They didn't have shit in them. And let me just say this to Ubisoft. You are not... Oh, dang. Who is that? Excuse me. I cannot think of their names. The makers of... it's going to come to me right now. Hold on. The makers of Just Cause. You are not Avalanche Studios, okay? You cannot make... If you're going to have an open world like that, I think one of the best things you can do to make a game fun is have good physics. Just Cause 3, the story was intentionally a B movie. It's a physics simulator. Just Cause 3. Just Cause 4 was trash. Just Cause 3 had amazing physics, destructible stuff, not totally destructible environments, just shit that you could just blow up and you could have stuff come raining down. It was fun. Breakpoint has none of that. The vehicles, and hell, Wildlands has the same problem. The vehicles handle like trash. The gameplay is uninspired. It's just there to be a grind. And that's one of my biggest issue with these $60 free-to-play games. I miss when, games were fun. I didn't have to, put 40 hours into a game where it's just a grind. That's not... First of all, grinding in a game should never be a gameplay loop. And that's what effectively the video game industry has created. Grinding as a gameplay loop. And then and ironically, only they can solve the problem they created, right? And just, Ubisoft is famous for doing this. Even with Assassin's Creed, my God. Boring. And it's just a grind for most of that game. And this is the reason why I always think that there's something wrong with me when I'm playing a game for 10 hours and I just get so bored. And I'll say this, if I play a game for 2 hours and I'm bored, and if I come back and play 2 hours for like the next week and I'm still bored, your game sucks. And has nothing to do with the genre, has nothing to do about the gameplay from this perspective. I'm talking strictly the content in the game as well as how the game is structured. And it just makes no sense that we have $60 free-to-play games. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. I'm kind of talking out my ass right now, excuse the language. But have a good day.